welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining me on my channel on YouTube as I explore the wide world of pens. It's a wonderful world of pens. This is a pen I mentioned earlier, a pen that I received in a trade with one of my viewers, Dean. It's a very, very nice pen. It's a PenBBS 355 in autumn, which is one of their very colorful acrylics. They've been using it for a while. We're going to explore the 355 model. It came in two versions, the initial version, and they did a very, very good upgrade to the mechanics. And we'll also take a look at what other models I have in this amazing finish. And yes, it's also a great video because I have a new turntable. It's quiet, great. I like the fact that it has this nice matte finish on it, allows the color of the pen to really pop. I've also done some changes to my lighting just to put less harsh light on my pens, hopefully allowing you to appreciate more the nuances of the pen. I watched a video on a photographer who's doing pens along with fashion photography, and I learned a lot. I'll put a link in my video description. Yes, it's a long, nerdy discussion, but if you're interested in pen photography, I certainly would recommend that you spend some time with it. The second half of it is more dedicated to pens, but I think it's good to watch the whole thing to get an idea of a creative mind using lights and the amazing camera equipment that we have available to us. So as usual, we're going to zoom in a little bit to appreciate this resin. I just love it. And Miss Sizemore and Mr. Seymour are also appreciating these colors. They see a couple of their colors within this autumn. And of course the orange crab is saying, "Oh, I love this pen. I like holding it up." So let's explore this a little bit more, and we'll let Mr. Crab rotate a little bit. Some people lost my Monty Python comment about the back of the crab, but that's acceptable. So Mr. Crab is going to give us a wink wink, and we'll continue on. So these are my 10 PenBBS 355 models, all in different colors. My first one was their year of 2019 pen. Had a snowflake motif. These are stenciled on. Some of the versions apparently were etched in. Obviously smog. I used to try to collect every pen in smog and clear, and this is considered clear, the 16. Galaxy, Niango, and Amber, three of the more popular colors and sometimes hard to find colors in the different models. And this new autumn pen sits here pretty much in this same color family as far as being a very impressive look. Then we have our version 2s, which I have 4 of them, and we'll just quickly look at the differences. Misty Mountains, Vermouth, another color that I tried to collect in every pen. And then 2 what I would call special editions, which were pens exclusively made for a pen store in China. We have Fire Cloud and Emerald. So that's my collection. I think overall these are a very good design, much better with version 2 as far as the filling system goes with that draw filler. A good size pen, feels good in the hand, nice weight, nice balance, which is a very typical quality that PenBBS has maintained pretty much with every model. So what's the main difference between the original design over here on the left and the improved version 2? Well, you can see where the way the piston rod is secured inside of the cap is now with a rod through it, so it's extremely secure. That rod is never coming out of that cap, which I've heard some people have an issue with, but I've never did. And they made the top part of this assembly out of aluminum versus black plastic, but I'm impressed with their approach to changing that design. Unlike the 309, which many users have challenges with that piston filler, they don't seem to want to make changes to it. But here in the 355 they did, and it was a significant improvement in reliability and functionality. So you may ask, what PenBBS models do I have in autumn? Well, here we have the 355. Next to it is the 487 magnetic filler. And why would I get the magnetic filler in such an opaque resin? Don't ask me. It was available, the price is right, and it's still available on the PenBBS Etsy store. Here's the classic 308 PenBBS, their first model. Well, not their first, but their first really large production model. The band says 266, which could have been the actual number of the first model. Next to that is a 456, the vac filler. Also, why would you get it in an opaque resin? But I just enjoy the colors. And here is a pen which very few people discuss or talk about or review, the 267, which the writer's pen, the desk pen, however you want to describe it. But a bit of interest is you can't use the calligraphy nib assembly in the 267 because for some reason the change that they made to that nib collar won't screw into the 267. It will screw into the newer pen, so that's of interest in case, because when I first got my calligraphy nibs, I wanted to put them in the 267 and they wouldn't fit, because I thought that would be the perfect combination, calligraphy nib in a pen designed for writing and fitting in the hand well. And the 267 also shows off the color variations: yellow, red, yellow, red, green, etc. So not only does it have different chips in here, the chips are layered when they poured these rods that were eventually machined into these pens. Very creative approach, use of colors, and the perfect name, autumn. These colors are very, very typical representative of autumn, especially here in the east coast of the United States, when the leaves of the trees turn these great colors. Let's just peruse a little bit more closely the resin in these pens. It's extremely consistent resin. Obviously each pen is unique and different because you're going to get a different color combination in each of these pens, but all of them are quite nice in their own way. And that resin is certainly one of the nicer ones in my perspective. Let's just take a look at the 355 and compare to the 487, just so you can appreciate that resin a little bit more. You may have noticed that LED ring of light that I used to have when I did this type of work has now been muted with some nice diffusing cloth in front of the LED lights. Hopefully it allows you to appreciate these resins even more. Interesting, in the 487, no cap band like the 267, which you see down below. So that's a nice close-up. I think we need to write with the 355 medium nib and that great pen from Dean. I like to make a correction, and you can get some transparency in this autumn resin, which is very evident in this 487. You can see that ink area is clean and empty of ink, and there's that piston, and right above it is that magnet that you use to move the piston. Needless to say, this one is stuck. So I have this very loose at the end. Take this out, use a wooden stick to move the piston, and once the piston starts moving, like the 309, it'll generally move pretty good for a while until it eventually will get stuck. So now we're to that editorial review part. I would put this in my top 10 pens. There's probably 20 pens in my top 10 pens. The cap comes off in about 1 3/4 turns, close to 2. Again, typical of PenBBS. I like this section. I like the way it feels. I like the flare out. I have a 355 playlist, so if you want more details, you can look at my other reviews where I take it apart, measure it, play with it, do all those other things. And also, typical of PenBBS, you could post it. Not something I would do. Post very shallow. It is fairly secure, but it certainly changes the balance significantly in my hand. So we would not write with it that way. This pen has a mixture of ink that Dean did for me, and I like it. It has encouraged me to mix some inks of my own, which is going to be a long process in the making. You'll notice that I have that blind cap unscrewed. Something you need to remember when you're dealing with this type of draw filler, vacuum fillers, some types of eyedroppers that have shutoff valves. So if you don't unscrew it, you can write for a little bit, then it's going to stop writing. Then you're going to say, why did it stop writing? And then you're going to have to remember to loosen up the blind cap, and then you have to wait for the ink to resaturate the feed, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the drawbacks to this design, if you want to consider that a drawback. Most people consider it a positive trait because you can seal off the nib from the ink supply, and therefore on airplanes or jostling around in your bag or moving from a cold inside to a hot outside or whatever that change might be that's going to potentially push ink out and have the pen burp, that shutoff valve pretty much eliminates that. But you must remember, to use the pen to write with, you need to have ink flow, and the valve must be released. So let's see how this medium nib writes. So this nib is smooth, but does have a sweet spot. And when you're off the sweet spot, as you saw here, it may skip. So for those of you that rotate your pen, this may give you some challenges. The ink is in a nice green stage. Here's a list of the inks that Dean used. I don't know the ratios, and in my initial playing around with mixing inks, the ratio is extremely important to understand the end result that you're going to get. But that's for another video to delve into. This pen is definitely wet, lays down a lot of ink. I've been very happy with all my medium PenBBS nibs. I probably have close to 20. I've written with most of them, and they're nice. Good, consistent, clean line. As I mentioned, it feels great in the hand without being posted. The balance is perfect. Just a nice overall pen to write with. So if I was to rate this particular pen, I'm going to give it a 9.8. Gets one check for the classic, typical, very good build, design, construction. That nib gets 2 checks in my mind. Why doesn't it get a 10? Well, to me, the draw filler is a little bit of a complexity that's not needed in a fountain pen to fill it up with ink. You got to remember to unscrew the blind cap. Again, just little things like that that I think just stop it from being a 10. Let's take a look at the calligraphy nib in my other 355 that's inked up. So this is that first calligraphy nib Has a fair amount of tipping material on it that's grounded in nice style. I consider it close to the Zoom style. And let's see how it puts down ink. Almost twice the width of the line. Very, very wet. You know, the characteristics of this nib are, if you're vertical, the line is finer. If you increase the angle, you're lower on the angle. You can see the vertical line is wider, and also the horizontal lines are also wider. So it goes from, I would say, a fine medium to almost a double broad. I don't find it provide a lot of line variation during normal script writing because I'm not varying the angle that much. When you're in the sweet spot, this is just super smooth, which is what you might expect from a nib with that much tipping material on it that's ground very, very well. It's a good nib. I got all the rest of the calligraphy nibs, and I have yet to be motivated to do a full review on them, and they seem to have mostly disappeared, and what's left are the gold ones, which are even wetter and smoother. So we've come to the conclusion of this video, a video of pen I did not buy. I want to thank all of you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If not, let me know. If there's other things I could do in my videos to make them more enjoyable, let me know. I'm flexible. The spring weather is calling me outside, so the amount of time I'm going to spend behind the camera is going to be less than it has been. But hopefully, quality is what counts, and that's what I always strive to present to you, my viewer. We've reached the end. I hope this video finds you safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens, putting some ink on paper, sharing your thoughts. That's what it's all about. So we're going to say bye. Until the next video, see you eventually.